Hello, Narnach here. Welcome back to Grim Dawn. We have arrived on Ultimate. And of course that means we have received a penalty to all of our resistances. Last episode we already jumped in and then we saw there were some imbalances. So in between episodes I went through all of the gear that we looted in the previous episode, as well as some items I still had stashed away for just this moment. So there have been a couple of gear upgrades. Once we hit level 82, there's a couple more items that will become available, because 82 is one of those nice threshold levels. But at least for the short term, I've made a couple of changes, and the end result is that my resistances are now much more balanced and upgraded compared to what they were at the end of last episode. Bleeding is still at 64, and that is the lowest. Outside of bleeding, everything is either at 77% or it is maxed out. So this is something I'm very happy with. Armor rating went up a little bit, 50 points by just upgrading the shoulders and the gloves. Gained a little bit of extra health in the process, went up 500 points. And most notably my damage went up. It was about 4200 listed at least here at the end of last episode. Now it's 46, so we gain about 10% more damage. So how did I achieve that? Well, I replaced my weapon, my shoulders and my gloves. So the old shoulders with these Blood Fury Spolders. There's a tiny bit of vitality damage on here, that was helpful. There a bit of health, a bit of offensive ability, a bit of chaos resistance, as well as decent armor. And the Blood Fury ability, whenever I got hit for 12 seconds, I gained an extra bonus to vitality damage, as well as casting speed. So a little bit of defensive, mostly offensive, but the whole focus on bleeding and attack speed and cast speed, bit of a not quite a match with the playstyle that I really want to go for. And especially Drain Essence, it already attacks very frequently. If we stack more casting speed on top of that, we're just gonna end up consuming a lot more energy. And consuming a lot of energy is something I like to avoid, since energy is one of the bottlenecks. So if you reduce the cast speed and just increase the damage, then in the end we will be off a bit better. So the new shoulders, they just have a bonus to vitality damage, vitality decay. There's more health on there, there's some cunning on there, which gives a little bit of offensive ability. And then there's pierce and chaos resistance on there. Slightly more armor, not a lot, but slightly more. But overall, the increase in resistances is just very helpful. So in one shot, we gain 16 chaos res as well as 29 pierce. So pierce basically gets maxed out via this one. Skill height is in here again for the increased armor absorption. So once again, my armor absorption is at 100%. So all the armor will be used to mitigate damage, whereas by default is at 70%. So basically by default you will not be able to block 30% of the damage using armor, and via this you can. So that is helpful. And there's some flame weave powder in there for some pierce and fire resistance. The components, they have remained the same. The augments in the gear, I just went through all of my gear, because I've got this nice collection of augments here. And I've used those to just rebalance some of the resistances as well after swapping out the items. So that's something to keep in mind. Always have some extra augments so you can shuffle resistances around as well. So this one has been upgraded. The Gauntlets of Ignifar effectively got the same treatment. They were legendary, they were purple, so therefore I had to equip them. At the time I equipped them, they were pretty decent, and I think they might even have been an upgrade over what I had before. Problem was they only have 600 armor, the new one nearly 900, so that is a massive upgrade. In addition to that, the old item, it had quite a nice fire resistance bonus, as well as chaos, so those are good resists. It's a total about 60% resistances that I gained from it. 19% casting speed in a build that is energy hungry. Casting speed, as I said, it's maybe not the best way to scale damage. So being able to drop that means my energy is just much more stable. It had a proc flame chance, 15% chance on attack to just spread fire all over the place. It's a very nice proc. I'll probably end up missing it because it is just nice damage. But sometimes you just gotta upgrade items and say goodbye to some of the things that you have come to enjoy. Make room for better things. So the new ones, they're not too special, but they're just a nice upgrade. More armor, poison resist, elemental resist, and that's it. Poison elemental resist. It should be relatively easy to upgrade onto something that is even better. But armor as well as double resist, or actually elemental resist, of course, it's fire, cold and lightning. So effectively this one has 4 different resists. So we gain 20% total resistances as well as 300 armor. And we lost some procs in the process. But again, it just compensates for a little bit of the resistances lost. Finally, the weapon. The Empowered Doomsaw of Gluttony is a very nice weapon. It is a very nice weapon. It gives +2 to drain essence. It has a tiny bonus to vitality damage. And it has Life Stealer Nova. And Life Stealer Nova, 10% chance on attack. In a high attack speed build like this, it's gonna trigger very often. And within 6 meter radius, it does nearly 3000 points of vitality damages and leeches all of that back as health. So it's very good for sustainability. But the damage bonus is not that great, and it is a level 65 item. I'm past level 80 now. So at some point, again, now you just have to say goodbye to some items that are nice in order to make room for an upgrade. And the upgrade I went for is an Ascendant Source, so the casters in Malmouth drop these. And I actually had quite a lot of these puppies. The bonus to drain essence seems to be a default. The bonus to Sigil of Consumption seems to be a default. The +1 to Inquisitor seal actually is on a rotating thing. There can be random skills. Sometimes it also rolls a Necromancer skill. So for example, in my stash over here, I have one with +1 to Spectral Binding for level 82. And this one even has a higher skill point, so there's a very good chance I'll upgrade into that one. More than 100% vitality damage, more than 200% ether damage, and 50 vitality decay damage. Percentage bonus to spirit, cunning, and health. So overall, it's nice for defense. A little bit of survivability, but mostly it just massively boosts my offense. So all in that, and then combined with the reshuffling of the augments, means we're in a slightly better state than before. More armor, more health, more damage, less energy usage, slightly increased energy pool even. Seems good. Only thing that I'm not entirely 100% sure of is the loss of the Life Stealer Nova, but the only way to find out is to try it. So these were the old items. For next level, once we hit 82, the Necromancer's Ascendant Source over here is going to be helpful. Oh, the +1 to Inquisitor item is of course because of the Inquisitor's prefix, just like this one has the Spectral Binding from the Necromancer's prefix, and I think that's also where the extra damage comes from. We also picked up the Mythical Signet of the Damned last episode, which has Aether and Chaos resistance, as well as a bonus to vitality, damage and decay, as well as health and offensive ability, and it has a 10% chance to cast a Sigil of Consumption. It only has a 33% life leech component, and it only does 2000 points of vitality and damage. Has a slightly shorter recharge radius, but it's a circle that procs multiple times. So this one, I'm aiming to replace the Sliff Primal Ring with this one, and after that I'll have to rebalance my resistances again. But I think this is going to compensate for the Doomsaw. So yeah, we're halfway in the process of replacing things. Already I had a chat with the bounty board, and we have to kill the Gethran and Zembrant near the end.
You must be.
Okay, and you're happy as well. So now let's get started. Of course, it is only Act 1. The enemies are not going to be overwhelmingly powerful, but still, if we get, say, ambushed by some heroics, they can still do quite some damage. But at least I am as prepared as I could possibly. Hello. Goodbye. So the initial goal will be to head for the Burial Hill. It's the same old starter quest for Act 1. Nothing overly fancy about that. And look at that. Barog the Bloodied. Okay, a little bit of poison damage coming my way. I'm very happy that once again I'm maxed out. Bleeding damage that I'm not resisting entirely very well. So there's still some room for improvement. And ooh, look at that. First hero we kill drops a legendary. Ultimates, I think, has a higher chance of dropping legendaries than Elite, which in turn has a higher chance of dropping legendaries than normal or veteran. So we'll probably get used to seeing more purples than before. A Venom Tongue Mantle. Let's actually put it here so it's not entirely behind the webcam. So we got acid damage, vitality damage, poison and vitality decay. Some health, some offensive ability. Bleed resist, reduce petrified duration, and a poison retaliation. Quite a nice poison retaliation. +3 to decay, I think that is... Yeah, that's part of the Ravenous Earth skills. Nidala's Hidden Hand, Black Death, it's all over the place. Nidala's is Nightblade, Black Death, I think is an upgrade for Pox, which is Occultist. And 33% chance on a crit to cast a Venom Lash. Which does some acid damage, reduces target's defensive ability. And it has a very, very low recharge rate. If you were into those elements, this might be a very helpful one. In our case though, it's not quite part of the build. But it's a legendary, and you're always happy to find legendaries. Even if they're not helpful, you're still happy to find them. Okay, so let's just see if we can make it to the other side here. So we do enter with our Warcry maxed out, so we can, at the press of a button, reduce all enemies' damage by 25%. Hello there, Faldis. I will send you back via Riftgate. That's some free experience just waiting for us to be claimed. And there we are. Lower crossing. So now saying hello to the Necromancer should not be too difficult. And there's a good chance I'll end up just rushing through Acts 1 and 2 a little bit faster than I would have in the previous acts. Simply because our power level is pretty good and Acts 1 and 2 are relatively undertuned compared to the rest of the game. Besides, no, we can make a little bit more progress. Another thing is the devotion shrines. There are less of them now in Ultimate. We already have 53 out of 55 devotion points, so there's only 2 more shrines that we need, which will be in the Wightmire. There's a cavern. It's a combat shrine, so that is nice and easy. And then the next one will be in the underground transit, so that is nearly at the end of Act 1. And that one will require a Calamity relic as well as a large Ether shard. But Calamity is a very low tier relic, so that is easy to make. But does set the trend, because this one is already claimed, or it is not a devotion shrine. But now the requiring of a Calamity relic is kind of symptomatic of how things will be in terms of devotion shrines and ultimates. You will have to put in quite some effort in order to claim them. So if you have managed to claim all of them on veteran and on elite, then you only need to grab the first 2 and then you can ignore all of the other ones. If you are a little bit more patient, then you could just wait a little bit longer, because there will be more combat shrines, and then you can simply claim the combat shrines and then you never even have to craft anything. But I'd like to just get the devotions maxed and be done with it. And there we go. One more hero bites the dust. We've of course buddies with all the factions in the game, so we get a lot of reputation with everybody as well. And we've also completed the very first quest here. So I might as well walk on to the next step of the way. That is going to be to take out the zombie lords. So that's Pharos, Jillian and Negan. And grab the next waypoint. And then from the waypoint we can go back to town. Hello everybody. Welcome in committee. Hello. So if you're taking more time in Elite on your own playthrough, from what I understand, Elite will scale up to level 90 or so. And it's no Ultimate is what you need for level 90 plus items. So there's no real hurry, and I'm actually pretty early in Ultimate already. Of course, back in the day when we didn't have the expansion, I think you entered Ultimate even earlier because of course there was less content to play through and therefore less experience to be gained. But then the curve stopped at 85, now it stops at 100, so there's a little bit of a balance there. A level 80 is the new level 70, or something along those lines. Did we get ourselves a stash? I don't think so. It's always nice to just dive into the little case and just collect some loot. Got ourselves a mythical astral mantle, which is again level 82. Oh, it is one of those key levels. Lightning orb, only when you get hit. There's some lightning elemental damage. Ether resistance is helpful, bonus to energy regen and some spirit. But big picture, not that helpful for us. So if your resistances are not quite maxed, do be careful. Poison clouds like that could hurt quite well if your poison is not in a good shape. And encounters with heroes and bosses like Pharaohs here, they can be much more dangerous because you will be much more vulnerable. And I would not be surprised if enemies have a couple more nasty tricks up their sleeves compared to the previous difficulties. Because of course there has to be something to make things challenging and interesting. Okay, just grab a meal. So first of the zombies has been slain. There's a bit of fighting between the factions here. Let's just jump in and arrange a violent sort of peace. See, they're not fighting anymore. And then we can just move forward. So this is Wightmire.
That skill's not ready.
We already grabbed the amulets for the shamans back in Elite. We had quite a lot extra, so there's no need to pick up the Sliv amulets anymore, since they won't do me any good. Yeah. Always forget which side of the river was the rover camp, so let's just double check. If it was near the bottom left here, or if it was in the next area in the bottom left. Looks like it was the next area. Yep, still the entirety of the swamp here, it still all looks alike to me. Yeah, see, there is the vendor, so that is definitely on the other side. And we got some stakes there, level 80, 81, so some of them even are lower level than I am. So let's just read that as a suggestion to just move along and get onwards to the place where enemies are of an appropriate challenge level. Look at you, level 83, that is 2 levels above me. That is more like it.
Can't do that yet.
Then we have the rift that we need to defend. So using Warcry to just take the sting out of enemies' damage, very helpful. just reducing their offensive ability. Also a very helpful thing. Okay, there is a hero in here somewhere. Mage Fire. Ulrich Mage Fire. Okay, so that assumes it's a mage of sorts. It's a very highly suggestive name at least. But in the end, we burned through here. So let's have a quick jump back to town, say hello, and then get to the next patch.
A creature was. I need some time to plan our strat.
I will speak with the folks here. So then we have Kasparov. Wait, what? Here, crystals? Yes, I feel stronger now. Oh, did you lose your apprentice? Well, let's look for her. So we did gain a skill point, that's always the nice thing. Yep, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? We completed the war cry. We have some options of going for something like a fighting spirit, but I'm actually very strongly tempted to just pick up decomposition and just increase our damage even further. So right now we are listed at 4623. We bump this one up and it becomes 4773, and then the next 2 skill points we can invest and it won't increase the mana cost. So is this enough scrap? And then, oh, look at that, we need to go to a cave. It's always nice and easy. So let's push a little bit forward and then we can go into the cave a little bit later. Because otherwise I will forget about, for example, the rover camp here. And then we end up picking up even more amulets. And of course, we don't really want to do that. You, what might that be? Will these necklaces suffice? Thank you. And that is a Sliff Primal Ring, which is something we already have. But this is the ultimate version of it, which is slightly better in terms of stats than the elite version. Bit more energy regen, bit more damage, bit more resists. No, in short, it is a very nice drop-in replacement. In fact, it is a drop-in replacement, but I had another ring in mind. So I'm just gonna put this one off to the side. If the other ring doesn't work out, we always have an upgrade that is just better than what we had. Exalted, oh, it's offense. Never mind. We don't do offense. We don't do offense. There's a cave here, Wightmire cave. So let's go there. That's gonna be another devotion point. The last 2 devotion points are probably the least important ones for our current build, since we'll probably just be ending. We probably just end wrapping up by completing the obelisk, which gives some defensive ability, which is of course always helpful. But it's not like we're still going towards a massive major proc or something like that. We've already hit the milestones a little while ago. Ooh, hello, how many Rift Hounds? Okay, I know from experience these Rift Hounds are insane. They really do a lot of damage, so this is gonna be just a thing where we really walk back and just try to take out at least one. Okay, war cry, have to keep that up. Okay, now they're getting weaker and then they fall. And look at that, energy management, it is good. Yeah, this specific pack, I think there were 4 here. On lower difficulties I've seen them with just 3 of them. Lethal, very, very lethal. High spike damage, and they just are upon you before you realize, especially if you're playing early on. Really do be careful for Rift Hound packs. Okay, a crossbow with +1 to both Arcanist and Inquisitor. That's not bad. This one has a bonus to all Nightblade skills, that's also not quite bad. So hello there. And And we are nearly level 82, which is also very nice to see. Yeah, there is the shrine. So this was the proper cave. And it's a Desecrate Shrine, which are always the best shrines, since you don't need to bring any materials, and you get free experience and loot on top. Okay, double heroes. Giraffe and an electrified random hero. But still, apparently, it still looks pretty much like we are able to just tank things. So increased damage and still decent mana stability. Apparently, that still works. Tidehunter and a champion. And there you go, one more devotion point assigned to me. We got ourselves a Spellweave Leg Wraps, which only gives +2 to Arcane Will, some Ether and Elemental Resist. Those are pretty nice. And Elemental Blast when you have a chance when you get hit by a critical. So that's Elemental Backlash with a knockdown. That is actually very nice and defensive. We'll just put it aside and then evaluate it at some later point. So, devotion points. Flat 150 armor applied to everything. It's very nice. 30 defensive ability, also very nice. So this is good. The last point here in the Obelisk of Men here is something that I'm not entirely sure of. Little Pierce Retaliation with a bonus to all retaliation damage. We're not a retaliation build, so I don't think the added value here is really all that great. It's probably better to just grab one of the starter points, maybe 5% extra health or something along those lines, maybe some offensive or defensive ability. But yeah, I think the Obelisk here is not going to be all that helpful. What did we actually end up grabbing? Defensive ability, yes, and armor. So armor went up by quite a bit, which is helpful, and the defensive ability, 1900 points. Right now, the yellow has a less than 90% chance to hit me. In terms of offensive ability, it's kind of in reverse. That 200 point gap here is quite significant. It's difficult for me to crit things as well. Okay, so this is one of the things I wanted to go for, so let's go back and dive into the cellar and see if we can at least hit a level 82 and clear the quest. The next episode we can push for Burbage. Nice, a little bit of rolling blood. Oh, by this point I'm kind of drowning in it. It's a very, very common material. Okay, usually I head over to the left hand side, so let's do the right hand side for a change. Ooh, there's a reflective boss down there. Yeah, down there is a secret space, also very helpful. So you're reflective, I don't really mind too much. I leech so much that I don't think it really affects me.
I can't do that yet.
Yeah, like that. Slow and steady, we just drain them to bits. Okay. Then the secret place here with a nice hidden spoils. And a Blightstone Invoker. That looks very much like a poison-based scepter with a very strong bonus to all pets. There's damage in there, there's crit damage in there, there's acid and poison damage, offensive ability and poison retaliation. And a bonus to, of course, to Blight Fiend, Familiar, Bloodburst. Yeah, if you're playing a poison monster, this might be one of those items that you would really want in the end. It looks pretty solid. Okay, I'll just open that one in a different tab, so any overflow is just going to go there. And let's see if we can fight our way to downstairs. Hello, everybody. And yeah, they're just melting.
That skill's not ready.
I'm hoping that we will get ourselves a key for the Depraved Sanctuary. So I'm very curious to see just how it's going to be on Ultimate. And how we're going to match up with the opposition there. Having my chaos damage or my chaos resistance maxed. Yeah, it actually is maxed. It's going to be very helpful for the Sanctuary. Bleeding not being quite maxed is just not helpful in general. There's worse things. And it's relatively high still. But Depraved Sanctuary, there's just a lot of vitality and chaos damage if I remember correctly. And those are the two resistances that I'm doing pretty well against. Okay, everybody, that's just a nice shout. Just aggravate everybody. And that is level 82. Yeah, we were on this side, so let's have a quick look. Put some points into physique, because Spirit is currently leading. Right now, listed damage 4773. Then we bump this one up twice. And it is another 300 points of damage added on top, further increasing my damage. I do suspect that the damage here, this is just for every single hit. Vitality decays, of course, over time. The other ones are per hit. So the DPS is a little fuzzy. Especially in situations where you're attacking large groups, since you have a very high chance of your Drain Essence just forking off and hitting multiple enemies. So you won't be inflicting a hit as well as applying the debuff to multiple enemies at the same time. So in larger fights you will be leeching from a lot more enemies and also inflicting a lot more damage. Though in single target situations your DPS is probably going to be closer to the listed number, but there we have multiple sources of resistance reductions. So again, those do throw the numbers off again. Hello there, bossy.
Skill's not ready.
So we'll just do some damage reflection back at you. Rip your spirit out, and we're just face tanking the boss. That looks like a good thing. The longer we can maintain just a very steady face tanking of bosses, with relatively stable mana, relatively stable life, the happier I am. Since that just gives a better chance of being able to face tank endgame bosses. Because if there's something I'm worried about, it is how we're gonna hold up in the endgame. But well, there's the level 82, 84, and 94 gear upgrades that are still ahead of us. So with that perspective, no, I shouldn't be too worried. Before we take on the hardest content, we also want to have the better gear to actually match that.
Any luck clearing out those sliths? Well done.
Okay, so that is yet another thing. So in terms of quests, handled all the low level stuff. So now there's the Gilius and Negan. We have Milton Hart. That's all in this area. We're going towards the town. There's the Cultist Lair, that where we could get a key, if I remember correctly, or if we're just lucky. And otherwise, now I'll just try multiple times. I do want to go into the Cultist Lair, because that is just going to be a happy fun times. Well, happy fun times for me, not for the cultists. And of course, we can always just kill Direni once we hit Burbage if we haven't gotten ourselves a key just yet.
Good, you're back. One of my... You've proved it. Follow the road.
So then again, it's happy fun times for me, not quite so much for Direni or other people that might get involved in the entire affair. For now though, I'm gonna thank you very much for watching and hope to see you again next time. Bye bye.